Hello, my name is Jessica. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, and thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I am going to try to get straight into it today. I'm an adoptive mom of one child. I'm 40 years old. I live in Washington, and usually I do like a vlog style video, motherhood kind of stuff. I quit my job and I'm home with my son. So this has been kind of a creative outlet for me, but I've been meaning to share like our actual adoption story, and I did record it once and the lighting wasn't great, and there was some times where I was like, do I share that? Do I not? So I'm finally sitting down to re-record it. My son is almost 3, so it took me a bit, but thanks for your patience because I did mention it in a couple of videos. That it was coming. So finally I'm here. It is nap time, so I'm trying not to talk too loud, and if I end up changing my outfit halfway through, it just means my son woke up and I have to record half of this today and then half another day, but I'm going to put it all in one video for you. So let's get started. My husband and I have been married for almost 9 years, and we didn't want kids right away, but we knew we'd want them eventually. And I have always wanted to adopt. I had 2 friends growing up that were adopted, and I knew one of them, I didn't know her story of like why her birth parents ended up going with adoption, if that was a choice for them or not, and I'm not sure if she was foster care or not. And then the other one, I did know her backstory, and it was a really big one. Like, it was a wow moment, and just how cool, you know. So I already, and you know, just seeing them and their families, and so it was always on my radar. And as a kid, we had 3 bedrooms in my house, and I was like, where's the other, you know, I was the only child. So I was like, can we put a kid in this room? Like, why aren't we adopting too, you know? So to me, logically, as a child, I was like, oh yeah, you know. But throughout my whole life, it stuck with me, and I just always knew I wanted to adopt at some point. So we knew that going into it. And then decided also that I didn't want to give birth. Pregnancy doesn't scare me. It's the birthing part. I have some medical anxiety, and then I do have a health condition that can impact even getting pregnant all the way through birth. Like, it's not good for any situation. So, and my husband and I, we do not feel any pull towards having our child be genetically like us at all. Like, we don't care about that at all. So that is kind of how we came to our decision of adoption. And I know every family's is different. I just wanted to share ours, and hopefully this video is taken with kindness, because yeah, it's coming from a genuine place of love. But I just wanted to share kind of how we got there. Feels vulnerable to share that, honestly. So anyway, we decided to get started in the process, and I guess the thing for us was, you need to be, you know, financially ready, because we ended up going with domestic adoption in the United States through an agency. So there's domestic adoption like that through an agency of an American child, or there's international adoption, or there's foster care to adopt, which the goal of foster care is reunification with a parent. Some situations they know that that's not going to happen, but most of the time that's the goal. So we went with the American domestic adoption through an agency. So I can't speak to those other ones, but that is, we did research each, and that is the one that we felt worked best for us. And so that is also a costly one. I'm not sure how it compares to international. I would guess that one's pretty costly too, with flights and all that stuff. But anyway, we ended up getting our home study done here in Washington. And that process took us, honestly, probably like a year, because I was working. I used to be a real estate agent, and sometimes that job gets very busy and very like mentally taxing. And so, and then also since COVID, our agency here, she ended up doing most of her stuff where she would have like interviewed you at your house one-on-one, and she did come to our house and do that too, but it was shorter, I think, than her old process. Because of COVID, she ended up putting it all written out, and something about having to write it all out and think about an answer and type it out, like pages and pages and pages of questions about ourselves, our marriage, our relationship with our parents, what our childhood was like, how we intend to have, you know, raise our child, discipline, religion, everything. It felt like homework after I got home from work. And sometimes I would be working 12 hours, you know? And so I feel like because of that, it did take a long time, because it wasn't just like an easy conversation with somebody. I kind of wish it had been, because I think our process would have we would have been so much quicker, but that's just how our agency worked. And we really did it was one person that we worked with. We really liked her. So anyway, it took us a long time, probably like a year, to get all that done, plus all the background checks that you need to get. And they gave us a list of everything we need to do, and fingerprinting and all that stuff that you need to get done. Doctor has to sign off, all kinds of stuff. So that was, I want to say, about a year of us working towards it. So it's like we spent time working hard, saving money, and then time doing that. And then by the time we were done, we asked her, like, because she's such a tiny agency, she doesn't really have a lot of cases. She mostly just does home studies. So we asked her, what agency would you go with for, you know, to get the biggest reach, or who have you had past clients that you've worked with have great positive experiences with? And so she sent us a list of agencies and consultants. And at the time, I didn't even know what an adoption consultant was, but that is actually the route we ended up going with, because we at the time felt like it would give us the greatest opportunity to be seen by birth moms and connect more quickly. And so basically, I'll briefly touch on that. I'm not sure how all of them work. We've only worked with one, but they work with multiple agencies. I felt like, because the names would be on the cases that we would see, and I felt like there was maybe like 6 or 7 that they were working with, but I could be wrong. And basically, just to if you're not familiar with a consultant versus an agency, I think they get to know you, and then they only send you a few people that they think might match with you, or they'll send your book about you guys to birth moms that they kind of I think they kind of match for you once they've gotten to know you. We did end up starting the process with one agency, and that's what it was kind of like, but I'll get to that later. Where the consultant, they don't really get to know too much about you, but they do coach you a bit on, we're going to send you cases we're sending it to everyone who's paid our consultant fee and everyone who's active at the time. And then there's a button you click if you would like them to send your book to that agency to be presented to that birth mom. So they were less involved with our story, but they put it on us to know okay, here's what the agency's sharing about birth mom and baby, maybe health-wise, or what birth mom's wishes are. And if that doesn't align with what you're looking for your family, or what birth mom is looking for, then do not push that button, do not apply. And then if it does line up with everything you want and you can fulfill what birth mom is wanting, then you can click that button and we'll send your book over, is kind of how that worked. So we went through that process, and we could not apply for any of them until we had a little book about us done. And it was basically, I want to say it was 8 pages long maybe, and it was digital with this company. And it's got, each page kind of has a different theme of info. So there's a page about my husband, a page about me, a page about our family and what traditions we like to do, a page about parenting and what we wish for the child, and then a paragraph or so about how we, what we wish for the relationship with birth mom. And they kind of gave us prompts. Well, they gave us prompts of what to write. And anyway, they said you can do this book on your own, but it needs to have this information and look, clean and professional, or you can hire our designer, and they had a designer on staff to do it for you. And we still wrote everything ourselves, but they put it into a book and all the photos and made it pretty. And we ended up doing that because I am such a perfectionist, and I feel like I could have done that. I used to do flyers for a real estate company when I was young, and I enjoy it, but I feel like it would have taken me forever because I'm such a perfectionist. So it felt good to just pass it off to them and say, here's the photos, here's our responses to each topic. And they did it for us. And I'm glad I did. However, that took 6 weeks. So it was, for us, it felt like, okay, you're done with your home study and you're ready. You're like raring to go. You're like, let me apply to a case. And we weren't allowed to until our book was done. So they would show us the cases, but we couldn't, we were not, that was like part of the terms of that, the place that we chose. That was one of their rules. And so we got to, it was still nice though that we got to see the cases. It was very educational, and it gave us a chance to talk about them and like what would work for us, what wouldn't work for us. And adoption has so many, it's very multifaceted because every person is so different. So it got us talking about all that, like how, which cases would we and wouldn't we apply to, so that it kind of prepared us for once we were ready. But that 6 weeks felt so long waiting for the book to be done. So I want to say that got done in like December or January. I think it was like early January, maybe a few years ago. And then we were able to start applying to cases. Just a very busy time, but it also felt like it would last forever. Like it just, and we ended up matching within, I think we were 4 or 5 months at the most. So it actually was not a very long time, but it really felt long. Like it felt like an eternity because we had spent years prepping and we were so ready. And then we would get, apply for one and not hear back, or hear, hey, she's chosen another family. And that is just really hard. And then simultaneously, I had, all of my close girlfriends had kids. So I just remember in that period going out to a lunch with 3 of my close girlfriends. And some of them had kids that were, I don't know, at the time, I want to say 6 years old, 7 years old. And then the one that had kids, the most recent, had like I want to say she was like around the age of 1 or 18 months, somewhere around there. And I just remember the only thing we talked about the entire lunch was their kids. And I just left feeling so heartbroken and like defeated and alone, really, really alone during that time. Because nobody that we know could understand at the time what we were going through. So these videos did help a lot during that time, because none of our close friends have adopted. And so it just felt, not only like, I know people deal with infertility all the time and have to go through that as well. But then also like I'm not saying they're the same, they're definitely 2 different things, but there's a similar longing there. And it's like a hard waiting period. So if you are going through that, know you are not alone, and your time will come. And it is hard, and it does feel like an eternity. So at least it did for us. But luckily, after applying to quite a few cases, and honestly, towards the end of, right before we matched that week, we didn't expect to hear back, because every other one we had applied to, we just either didn't hear anything, or we heard she's picked another family. So we actually had just started, we looked at the list our agency here in Washington had given us, and we reached out to an agency on there. And so I called that agency, and they were wonderful. It felt right. She answered all our questions. They were so sweet. And so what I did is I reached out to the people at the consultant that had made our book, and they were able to order a hard copy, because this agency required hard copy. And that was being shipped there, and we paid that agency's fee to hop on with them. And we were basically approved through them. They were just waiting for that book, and then we were going to start being able to be matched with that agency too, just to widen our net and increase our odds of matching and being chosen by a birth mom. And we were told, I don't know, because I don't know other people that have adopted recently, But we were told that like most families did that most families were working with multiple agencies. So it just felt like, since we had been waiting for several months, to give that a shot. So we did that, and we really did not expect to hear back. And then I got a FaceTime from our agency here, and then the two people that worked at the consultant. And it's like, why else would three people, call you? One FaceTime call. And I missed it, and I was freaking out, and I was home alone. Randy was at work, my husband, and I was just like, oh my God, I think we matched. And it just felt, we were like almost caught off guard, because every single one hadn't been working. So I just think we were so like stuck in that mindset of like, it's gonna be another one we don't match with, which was silly, because eventually someone is gonna pick you. So we were just kind of in shock. And then from there, we were told, so in our situation, and this is where it gets more personal. So our situation, we were told, birth mom was, I think she said she was due in like 3 or 4 weeks or something like that. And so we didn't know, like at the first phone call, we didn't know when we would need to leave by, but we knew she chose us. She gave us like a couple of reasons why she chose us, which I will strongly recommend that you don't read into that, because every birth mom is going to care about something completely different. So you just need to be yourself. I know that's cliche, but it's absolutely true. That's why it always works out. It's just because you were honest and you were yourself, and you didn't overpromise that you can do, like if a birth mom wants, yearly visits and you can't commit to that, don't do it, because someone out there is matched perfectly for you. And then what else were we told? We knew where she was. So with us, it was Tampa. So we were able to then kind of just go off and start buying baby stuff and getting prepared. But we didn't know when to like book our Airbnb for yet at that time. I think about a week went by of us just literally, I was going to Target like every 2 days with like, I had this list of stuff we would need. And so I was just trying to get everything we would need to travel, and then for the house to be like set up for right when we got home, because we would have to fly, obviously. So I think it was about a week went by, and we got an email saying that we could talk to the birth mom. We hadn't gotten to talk to her yet, but that she could do a phone call, and the agency was on the phone too. So that was nice. So it was like a 3-way call. And the other part of our story is, when we applied, we didn't care what gender our baby was. We were applying for the ones that said boy, the ones that said girl, and the ones that said unknown. We just applied to all of the ones that like we could fulfill birth mom's wishes and we felt matched for us. So we didn't know our son's gender yet. We just didn't even know if we were going to find out until like the hospital, honestly, like when he was actually born. So about a week out, we got this phone call, and on that phone call, she told us that he was a boy. So we were just like in shock again, because we weren't expecting to hear that news on that call. I don't know why. I think we were you just don't know what to expect at all in the whole situation, being like first timers, and every situation's different. And then she also told us she was being induced and had an induction appointment, which was, I mean, I would be there no matter what she wanted and whatever her process was. We were not expecting that either, but she had an induction for her own reasons, and it ended up being nice, because from then we were able to book our Airbnb and our flights ahead of time and start planning that. And we actually had to get 2 Airbnbs, because one was only available for a week, but we liked that one because if it's like proximity to the hospital. And then the second week we had a different one that was a bit further away, but it was by the beach. So it was just like, it helped us do all that planning, which was nice. I know a lot of people don't have that, like the induction date. It can be very like fly by the seat of your pants. So then from finding out we matched and then flying to Florida, it was about 3 weeks. So between then, like talking to her, we just kept prepping. We just kept, making sure we had, everything we would need to take care of him for, they told us a couple of weeks, which I'll get to in a second, in another state. And then everything we would need, we got home, we were tired. We rented a bassinet while we were away, stuff like that. And this is where I'm like, what order do I share everything in? One of the things I wish I could go back, and they had told us, like our agency and the consultant had said, like, don't buy baby stuff until you've matched. And we had heard it over time and time again, because you don't want to be walking by a nursery full of baby stuff and you are still wishing for your baby. It could be very heartbreaking, which I totally understand. But in hindsight, I wish we had gotten the basics. Stocked the closet with some diapers and wipes, some gender neutral footies and onesies, and what is that called? Like burp rags, bottles, stuff like that, so that we weren't just starting from square one, and just hid them in a closet so that we just had them, because it was so much work to get everything. And I'm a researcher, so sorry, I'm getting a call. I'm a researcher, so it took me so much time, but like it was just a lot in 3 weeks. Okay, I'm back. I got interrupted last time. I tried to film the adoption story of our son, and I warned you guys that I might have like a different outfit on, because it might be a different day, and it is. It's a few days later. The lighting is totally different because it was sunny this morning, but right now it's currently raining and cloudy, and it was hailing like a few minutes ago. We're getting like our crazy spring weather. So apologies for the lighting and being interrupted, but we'll just keep on going with it. And it is nap time, so hopefully my son doesn't wake up, and hopefully I don't have to do this in 3 little chunks, but we're gonna get through it. I also wanted to say, I think I had just left off talking about like prepping and getting everything ready to go, which was quite hectic. And depending on, you know, every birth is different, every birth mom is different, every adoptive family is different, the locations are different, so timing can really change, and each birth process is different. So I know that was giving me like a source of anxiety before. So I am grateful that we had a few weeks, because I know some people have more, some people have less. So just, yeah, I think for me, I think I was wishing we had like diapers and footy pajamas and just stuff like that already. Even like we had the crib and we had the crib mattress, but we didn't have a crib sheet. So like we totally forgot about that. And granted, he didn't sleep in his crib. He slept in a bassinet in our room, but we still wanted his crib set up and ready, so that if we were in his nursery where we would change his clothes and his diaper, that we could set him in the crib and like go wash our hands if we needed to put him somewhere safe. So like thankfully, what happened was we flew to Florida, and my sister-in-law stayed at our house, and she got that for us, and like she built the crib. It was wonderful. So she stayed at our house, watched our dog. So anyway, we flew out to Florida. We had that induction date scheduled, we knew about, and she was being induced. I think her check-in time was like around 10 a.m. So we ended up getting a flight and flying in. We landed, I think, around 5 or 6 in the morning, 2 days before that. So it was rough, because we flew from the airport that's just south of Seattle, SeaTac, to Tampa. And so the time change, and it was overnight. And I'm such a particular sleeper, so I didn't sleep on the plane. So we got there and we checked right into our Airbnb and shut all the blinds and got like a few hours of sleep. And then we went to, it was just nice knowing about the induction, because we did that on purpose. We went to the grocery store. We got, I think we got the diapers and wipes for Florida while we were in Florida, so that we wouldn't have to pack them in our bag. So we got stuff like that. And then we went to the grocery store and got a whole bunch of food that would be easy to be, you know, first time parents with a brand new baby and not even in our house. So we got like easy dinners, like ravioli with a bagged salad. And we got lots of like little yogurt cups, just stuff like that, so that we would always have fuel and food and not be like worrying about that. So we did that the first day. Yeah. And then We went out to dinner that night and we were pretty tired, but it was fun exploring the neighborhoods, like out in Tampa. And the first Airbnb we got was a house with a pool, and it was, I want to say it was like 20 minutes from the hospital. It was over by their military base in Tampa. Not sure what it was called. And it was great. And so the second day, it was like the last blast before having kids. And like, we're older parents, so I feel like we've had like plenty of years to be selfish. And we met in our 20s. We didn't date until like our late 20s, but we knew each other, and we had our like every time we would see each other when we were younger was like at people's birthday parties and partying. So just such a like full circle moment. We went and got a bottle of champagne, and we had like an afternoon in the pool the day before he was born, and just kind of was like, this is it. Like we, just had our little pool date, and we have pictures from that. Okay, something I forgot to mention, maybe I'll pop it on the bottom part of the screen, but in the beginning of the video, I wanted to tell you guys, I'm not showing like the video of us there because it's all on Instagram. I have a highlight. If you go to alwaysjessicaj on Instagram, I have an adoption highlight, and you can see all the photos. Like we took selfies at our last dinner place, and we took selfies at the pool, like in our Airbnb. There's us at the hospital. There's, I think, his newborn pictures. I should probably double check on that. But it shows us like on the airplane and on the airplane back. So if you're curious about those like intimate like details, it's all saved on a highlight on my Instagram right at the top. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, kind of circling back to all the prep and like figuring out what we needed at home and what we needed to bring on the airplane. I made a video for that. If you go back, maybe you've already seen it, but if this is your first time stumbling upon my channel, one of my first videos is what to pack for like an adoption where you have to like fly somewhere. So go ahead and check that out. And then I'm trying to figure out, I have an Excel sheet that it's like a checklist. I'm trying to figure out how to share that. I think I might have, look in the comments, I think I might have put a link there for like a checklist, but that video does go over everything video style as well, what we packed. So anyway, we had our little pool day. We went out to dinner right on the water in Tampa Bay, and there was pelicans flying everywhere, and we got sushi, and it was like our last date night before becoming parents. And we went home early, and I was getting nervous. So we had like an early dinner, and then we went home and packed more for the hospital, like a separate, like a smaller bag for the actual hospital stay at the Airbnb. And of course I was like overanalyzing it, and I think I still ended up going to bed at like 10 or 11, which was not good because we were still so tired from that missed night of sleep from flying. And then we went to bed and, set our alarms, got up, and I want to say her induction was 10 and we got to the hospital around 11, which worked out perfectly because we didn't need to be there for like them checking her in and stuff. So we got there, and she had just, I think within that last half an hour, been given whatever they give you to induce you, whatever medications that is. I'm not gonna pretend I know all the terms because I don't. And we got to meet his birth mom for the first time in the hospital that morning, and I'll never forget it. And she was just so calm and sweet, and we really got a whole like day with her, which was wonderful. So she got induced, I want to say around 10:30 in the morning, and then Nate was born around 11:30 that night. So we basically hung out in her room. She had said we could hang out in her room until the actual birth. And at that point I stayed, and Randy, my husband, waited in the lobby for the actual birth just for her privacy. But we got to stay in there, and we would go, get some Starbucks, see if she wanted any Starbucks, just kind of hanging out, go on a little walk around the hospital, come back. And I remember we watched that Transformer, wow, I think it was like the third Transformers movie together in her room. We chatted about like what she liked about Florida, about her family, her life. She asked us like, what did you want to name him? And then she let us know that she wanted a family name to be his middle name. So he actually has 2 middle names, and that was really sweet. She liked his name as well. So it was just like, that worked out really well. And then as the day stretched on, we went out and sat in the lobby for a bit just so she could have a little privacy and a little time. And we got a text and she was like, things are progressing, like it's time. And so I went back in and my husband stayed. Sorry, my computer is right below and the little fan is going off because I had it open. I wanted to see where I left off my last video. So I hope you can't hear that. But I headed back into the room and she was like, things are progressing, and nurses were more active and more checking on her. Okay, sorry, I had to turn it off for just a second. So anyway, we went into the room, or I went into the room, Randy stayed in the lobby, and things progressed pretty quickly from there. I wanna say within an hour. She had given birth to Nate. Things were, you know, getting busier in the hospital and everything went really smooth. And we in our situation, and I'm guessing that other agencies do this, they asked the agency she chose asked her what her wishes and how she wanted everything to go. So we all knew ahead of time, which I really loved that. So she wanted to hold him first, which totally perfect, understandable, as she should. So she held him and then she let me hold him next. Oh, and before that, she said I could cut his umbilical cord. I was like, are you sure? Like, I think I just forgot about that part and wasn't thinking about it. And I was kind of surprised and honored. And she was like, yeah, like, of course. So I cut his umbilical cord, which is just like the craziest. It was just magical, you know, I'm going to get teary. And then she held him, I held him, I fed him his first bottle of formula. And they weighed him and checked him and all that during that time and made sure he was looking healthy. And then right after that, we called my husband in. I want to say it was like 45 minutes after birth, somewhere around there. So then he came in and he got to hold him and it was just so sweet. And then from there, and they had kind of told us, like, you may or may not get a room. I think it depends on like maybe how busy the hospital is, what their policies are around adoption. I'm not really sure, but I know every hospital is probably different. But for us, we were able to get our own room. So she had a room on one side of the hall and we had our own room across the hall. And he stayed with us most of the time, but then she would take him for a few hours. And that's, for us, that was totally up to her. That was her like plan ahead with the agency, was that she wanted time with him, which I'm happy that she had that time with him. I would never want her to not have that time with him, you know, and for him to have that time with her, even though he doesn't remember it, it's still such a special thing. And she has so much love for him. So, and she got to, like, you know, snuggle him and change him and feed him too. So it was really, really sweet time. And then we were in the hospital for about 2 days. And for our situation, everyone was healthy. Birth mom was healthy. Nate was healthy. Everyone was able to check out in like a normal amount of time. But I have heard stories of if there's like any drug exposure or, you know, just any complications. Birth and health are so multifaceted. You could be staying there longer. So, and I know that's not uncommon in these in adoption situations, but for us, we were incredibly lucky and we were able to leave 2 days later, and so was birth mom. And so that's when the agency came to the hospital for us and we did the paperwork with them, and she did her own paperwork with them too. And all that, I don't know, you know, how each agency does it. That's just how ours did it. And I know each state has their own laws. So that was just, we were in Florida, you know, so it was like, I think at least 2 days we had to wait. And because everyone was healthy, we got to do that. It wasn't like 3, 4, 5 days, you know. So then from there, we took him home to, this is so random, but they wouldn't let us walk and carry him. You know, they have the videos where like the dad's holding the like car seat. They wouldn't let us do that. In that hospital, their policy was that they have to like wheel you out. And so I was holding him and being wheeled out. It was so like weird because everyone's watching you and I was just not expecting that. And like I could walk, I didn't give birth, you know, it was just so weird, but they made us do it that way. So it was so funny. So while they wheeled me out, Randy pulled the car around. and he was so tiny in his little car seat. We got the Duna, which we liked because it's a car seat and stroller in one. The wheels just fold up into it and then you pop it in the car, and you can use it with or without a base. It has instructions for each. So if you're in the situation, you may want to look into that stroller. For us, I want to say it lasted maybe 6 or 8 months, but our son was always like in the 95th percentile. So he grew out of it quickly, where my friend had that for her daughter and it lasted her like a year because her daughter was smaller than our son, but it just got a little tight in his shoulders and he looked uncomfortable. He wasn't out of the weight limit, I don't think. I think it was mostly that he just didn't look comfortable in there anymore. So we switched to Nuna, but it was a great travel stroller. We purchased the bag that goes with it for gate check. We did gate check both ways. In case you are wondering about that, that just made it so easy, especially with like a rental car and just popping it in and out. And with a newborn, not having to it's just easier. You just push a button and the wheels come down. So I highly recommend that stroller if you're in this situation. So we went back to our Airbnb and we were there for, I think we had that Airbnb for a week. So we were there for like 4 or 5 days after, no, we were only there for like 3 days, I want to say, after he was born, because we were in the hospital for part of it. But it was the same Airbnb that we were in before he was born. And we wanted to stay there, but we couldn't book it. They had someone else for the next week. So after that, we moved to another Airbnb out on the coast I want to try to remember the name. Madeira Beach, I think is what it's called. And it was really cool. We were in like a condo and there was a pool right outside our unit. And then it was a block from the beach and there was water on both sides. So behind our condo, we could walk along this waterway where you could see houses that lived on the water. And then if you walked the other way, it was the actual Gulf side of the water, the beach, the real ocean. So it was really nice because this was in May and we would get out before it got hot and go walk with some coffee either along that waterway or we'd go across to the beach. And so it was just a very sweet time. We had a little like lanai, like screened in porch at the condo that looked down over the pool. We were on the 2nd floor, and which did make the stroller part a little bit hard. But it was just like a nice, sweet little bubble. Okay, and then one of the other things that I'm pretty sure this is for every state is ICPC, which is where like the state you're coming home from, like the state where baby was born to your home state, they have to communicate and say like, we're bringing this child across state lines, is it okay? And you have to wait for them to okay you to come back to your home state. And they kind of gave us like a beware, it could be 2 weeks, but I think at the time they had said it was not taking that long. So we kind of knew it wouldn't take 2 weeks, but I think it can take even longer. I think it just depends on how backed up the state is at the time. So I'm sure your agency can give you like a rougher estimate than mine, because it was almost 3 years ago. Oh, geez. And it was, who knows what state, you guys are coming from or going to. But from there, for us, ICPC, I think it took about a week. And we ended up flying home when Nate was 10 days old, because once we found out we needed to book flights and we didn't want to fly in the middle of the night again. I think we got home at like 10 p.m. or something like that. So it was a little bit better. And then we also had one of his birth mom's wishes was that we would have a lunch together before we flew home, which was also very sweet. So we did that with her, I think 2 days before we left. And I think he had a doctor appointment checkup just to make sure he was gaining weight and everything. And he was. So we left when he was 10 days old, but we definitely had the okay to leave. Like, I think it was 2 days before we actually flew home. And we still had our Airbnb for 2 days, but we were like, we're out of here. We got to go home. We just wanted to be back home and like settle in, So yeah, that is like our adoption story in a nutshell, just like the process, because number one, I want to remember this, and I did write it down for him. Like I wrote him a letter of like how the day was and everything, or the days at the hospital were. But I loved watching these videos when I was in the waiting period, just especially if you're like a planner like I am. It's hard not knowing what's going to happen. And obviously our story could be totally different than yours, but I just found so much comfort listening to other people's stories. So hopefully this gives you comfort. And also I prayed a lot, and I tried to manifest a peaceful, happy situation with a healthy baby, healthy birth mom, and it couldn't have worked out better. We had the most beautiful situation. So yeah, it was just, I prayed that everything would go smoothly, and it did. And it was just the most magical experience with a wonderful birth mom. And I'm just so glad everyone was healthy, and we were in our own little bubble, and it just couldn't have asked for anything better. So I feel very blessed. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions below. I'm hoping I didn't forget anything. It was 3 years ago. So, but I just wanted to give kind of an idea of like boom, 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 how things went, because I had so many questions about that. But let me know if you have questions. I can do follow-up videos if you guys have more questions. And then also please check out that other video for packing. I really think that might help you guys. We used Rents for Baby. It's Rents and the number 4 Baby in Florida. I think they're in all major cities. We rented a bassinet and a, what's that thing? Monitor. And then they have like the baby Brezza. They have all kinds of stuff there. So I highly recommend them. They dropped off at one Airbnb, the first Airbnb for us, and then they picked up at the last Airbnb for us. So that was really convenient. And there's tons more tips in that video. And then you can see much more personal details about our journey in pictures and videos over on my Instagram. So anyway, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider following. It really helps my channel, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this whole video. And if you are on the adoption journey, I am praying for you, and I wish you well and health for you and your baby and your birth mom, and that everything just goes smoothly and the way that you dream for it to go. And anyway, love you guys. Bye.